Hi everyone, my name is Alex Fink. I am a principal at Empirical Ventures. We're an EIS/SEIS fund that invests in deep science companies. We look at a pre-seed, seed, and seed plus, looking at 350k tickets. Anton, did you want me to do my do's and don'ts now, or to save that for after? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex. Hello, everyone. My name's Fred. I look after new investments here at Pembroke VCT. Pembroke is an early stage venture capital investor. We invest, we're a generalist investor, so we invest across all sectors. We define those as technology, consumer, and business services. We invest at what we call the early growth stage, which is companies that have product market fit. Depending on the sector, it's generally $1 million of revenue upwards, and we're investing tickets from 2 to 5 million initially, but we're a follow-on investor, and so regularly invest again into our portfolio companies. We've got a portfolio of 47 businesses, all of them which are UK based because we're a VCT fund, and as a fund we raise funds every year. Thank you.
I think it was me next, so Paul Massick from Mercia. So I lead on the fundraising for EIS and VCT. So we're on the EIS, we're investing kind of post-seed, pre-series A, so that kind of area. And on the VCT, it's series A, maybe a little bit before, but a little after. Part of a £1.8 billion group and deploying across EIS and VCT probably 75 million a year into all sorts of different companies. Very much a national investor, do a lot outside of the southeast across many different sectors. Software obviously, but also do quite a lot in healthcare and deep tech. So some differences than other investors, but also we see a lot of great deals from outside of the southeast. So that's one of our USPs.
My name is Tommy Breen, and I'm a senior advisor at the growth stage. So we're a capital raising platform supporting tech businesses with raising institutional money. So as our very on the nose name gives away, we support later stage businesses. So typically we're working with companies that are looking to raise a series B round or later, right up into even working on some IPOs as well. And then also I do some mentoring work at Founder Institute, so a lot of experience working with earlier stage founders who are as early as ideation stage in a lot of phases, right up into kind of getting into that seed series A stage.
Well, thank you very much to all four of you. Well, you've heard them, people. We've got 4 brilliant panelists with us today, so let's make use of them. We've only got 47 minutes to go, and that means that we need to chop and get our questions ready, type them and put them in the chat, so then I can give you the mic to ask the panelists. So just a reminder, today is Startup Fundraising Q&A 133. If you're tuning in via the live streams, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there live. So you'd need to hop onto our call here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, and you can join via any device or platform, as long as you have the internet, that is. So the idea is that today you can ask them anything to do with fundraising, whether it's how to prep a pitch deck, how to prep a due diligence, how to reach out to investors, how much to ask for, how should you go about it, and all that jazz. There are no wrong questions and there's no need to be shy. If, however, your questions today are not on fundraising, please save them for the other events we run: Monday Style and Tuesday's Product and Tech, Wednesday's Growth, Thursday's Fundraising. Second Friday of the month, it's UK Startup Law, and third Friday of the month, it's UK Startup Finances. And now, without further ado, we'll go to a minute each, if you don't mind, gentlemen. Let's not do it longer than that. One do and one don't when it comes to early stage fundraising. So maybe this time we can start with Tommy, Paul, Fred, and Alex, please. So Tommy, Paul, Fred, and Alex. One do and one don't.
Thanks, Anton. I'll blend these together to keep it quick, but you know, the one do is making sure you understand what type of a business you have and what the market is. So if you're thinking about raising capital, do you have a venture backable business? So you need to spend quite a bit of time doing the research to understand, can your business actually, you know, achieve the scale that a venture investor would need to be able to invest even at an early stage? So you really need to think about the potential and the market size. And then the don't would be, obviously, don't waste your time going after investors that aren't going to invest. So, you know, you might have an idea for a business that can be, you know, really successful. You know, some people like to call them lifestyle businesses, but businesses that can make you certainly millions of dollars, millions of pounds, but might not, you know, get to this stage where it can be worth hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. So don't waste your time if you don't have that type of business going after venture capital investors that need to be investing in opportunities that can reach those levels. So understanding that and making sure you go after the right investors. You know, you won't necessarily waste venture capital investors' time because they just won't respond. So making sure you understand who the right investors are and, you know, looking out for those. So there will be, even if you don't have necessarily a venture backable business, as we say, you can still go after. There's plenty of angels and other investors out there. But I'll leave it at that. You can obviously research some of those things more if you don't quite understand what I said, or, you know, jump in and ask more questions if you want to know more.
Thanks, Tommy. Paul?
Yeah, I'm following on from that. Is that I always find that entrepreneurs are very driven and focused and determined, which is great, and that's what you need to be successful. But there's also an element of, once you've found that investment and once you're bringing people onto boards and advisors, is being able to be humble enough to actually take advice. So you may know your market very well, but we see a lot of entrepreneurs who are very pig-headed and aren't able to take good advice that more experienced people are giving. So I think it's that combination of being very driven and focused, but then being able to listen to people who have been through this journey before, because there's lots of pitfalls in these sorts of entrepreneurial endeavors, which people around you can help you with if you let them. So I think that is one of the key learnings we see from a lot of our small companies.
Thanks, Paul. So I will start with the do. Let's start on a positive. It's tempting just to say have a fantastic business, because if you do, then investors are going to be crawling across the table to put money into your company. But something maybe is more helpful and practical is start your fundraising process early. To Tommy's point, be prepared to spend the time, be thoughtful about who you're approaching and why. Do some research on them, send them a really well thought through email, maybe something to do with their portfolio companies or something they've said on a panel like this. Spend the time to do that work up front, and you'll really benefit from that down the line. It also helps from a cash management standpoint if you can be having the conversations from when you've got lots of cash and you're in a much better negotiation position. On the don't, I would say this is probably more general life advice too, but don't misrepresent any of the information about your business, no matter how small. You're going to go through a due diligence process. People often do misrepresent things in the initial investment deck. You're going to go through a due diligence process where the investor is going to really get under the hood of the business. And if there are small things that you have misrepresented, the investor is going to question everything else in the deck. So I would say be really transparent and honest about the good, the bad, and the ugly with the investor as soon as possible.
Thanks,
Fred.
Yep, go on.
So my dues, I would say, totally agree with what Fred was saying. I would add to that is do take more money than you think you need if it's on the table or on offer. It gives you more runway when you come to your next round. And then any investors you do once you've done your homework on them and make sure that they're relevant for you. Do keep them up to date, even if it is a no. Do keep passing them and make sure that they're well informed about where your business is and what recent wins you've had. On the don't side, I'd say don't give up when it comes to fundraising. Just to the flip side of that, make a list of as many VCs as you can. Make sure they're relevant and keep plodding away because you need to build that top funnel to get down to the bottom one.
Oh, well, thank you very much to all four of you. That is pure gold. Really appreciate that. Well, guess what's going to happen now? We now have 39 minutes to go where we can ask our panelists any questions you have in terms of your fundraising journey. There are no wrong questions and there's no need to be shy. I think we may have time for 3 questions, so you might want to type them in and put them in the chat now in order to kind of take dibs, call dibs rather, in terms of you getting to ask the question, otherwise we run out of time. So I have unmuted Becca, who is one of the co-founders of our Startup of the Month. Becca, the floor's yours.
Thank you, Anton. Hello, everybody. So yeah, I'm Becca from 36 Bus Productions, and you saw our film for our app, which is a relaxation stroke meditation app based on the healing power of reggae music. So the question today is, we're interested to know about grants with relatively quick application processes and ones where we might have a higher chance of success. Both of us are relatively time poor at this stage in the business, so we need to prioritize avenues where we stand a better chance of success. Thank you.
Right, well, thank you very much for that, Becca. Now, whilst our team today are not really as involved in terms of the grant landscape, I'm sure they might have some idea. So maybe with this one, we can start again with Tommy, then Paul, then Fred, and last but not least, Alex, please. Tommy?
Yeah, unfortunately, not my area of expertise. You know, a lot of the grants, obviously, these days with Innovate UK and stuff are more focused on deep tech startups, which I'm not sure that this is. So I would look more towards community grants, so looking in your local councils and things like that. In terms of, you know, quick processes, again, not an expert. I know the processes with Innovate UK are quite lengthy for good reason, because they're, you know, trying to decide on the best ideas and, you know, given in some cases quite large grants. I don't know what other council grants and things like that are like, but I definitely look at more community-based ones and trying to, you know, show what your business idea can maybe do to benefit a community. Places like Enterprise Nation, if you go on their website, they have loads of resources on this, and you'll find more there than you will from me, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Paul?
And I know even less about grants, so I'm just going to skip that question, if that's okay, and pass on to someone who's better informed.
Fair enough. I believe next one is Fred.
Unfortunately, I'm very much in the same position as Paul. I was going to try.
Sorry, Fred. Last but not least, Alex, please.
Okay, I've done quite a lot of work on grants, unlike the other panelists, with a lot of our startup portfolio. So the 2 main grant funding bodies to look at are UKRI. They have a website. I'll post a link in which lists all the grants that the UK releases one by one. You've got to find and apply to the right grant for you on there. and they'll tell you the award size and the process. It's not a quick process. It takes a long time to get these grants, and they're very competitive. For example, there was one on deep tech, which was a more of an open call, and they had something like 185 applicants, of which 10 get funded. So very hard to do. The one that's even harder to do, but the pots are much bigger, are the UK Horizon grants. I'll also put the link for that in there. European grants are much bigger pots, and they're harder to win, and you've got to get a number of companies from a number of countries participating in the grant to often be successful. Other than that, as I said, regional grants, specific, especially in deep tech, a lot of the charitable foundations do grants as well. One of our portfolio companies, Mint Neuro, just won £17 million in grants from ARIA. So there's lots of different funding pots to look for. So well worth looking about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. And last but not least from me now, Becca, on top of what's been mentioned, so Innovate UK and UKRI in general, maybe worth to look at NHS Innovation Agency. If not able to fund you, they might know some people to put you in touch with the right people. If I remember correctly, you came across to us. Did you come across via Grow London, or?
Yes.
You did. So
Yeah.
poke them again to put you in touch with people that will know more about grants. I am not a fan of doing it, but if you're strapped for time and you also don't know the landscape, it may be worth going to one of these grant writing agencies, and there's quite a few of them that also have their own platforms that they scrap together loads of live grants. You've got I think Granttree, and there's a few others. There's another one lately. Oh God, I can't remember her name, but it's a lady who started this. She used to post every Friday or something new grants. So maybe if you send me a message just to remind me, and I'll try and find her. But anyway, if you haven't got time, don't know the landscape, unfortunately, you have to go. You don't have to go. Unfortunately, you may have to go to these people that write grants, and they don't work on success fees. Most of them want to be paid upfront and so on. I think Alex wants to add something. Alexander?
Yeah, I was literally going to add that, Anton. Yeah, be careful with grant writers. They often charge you very high upfront fees to have a third success rate. So just be careful. As much as you can do smaller retainer and do it on a per grant basis of one that absolutely fits your startup, and then try and weight it towards success fee, because you can actually build that success fee into the grant application, so it's funded from the grant.
Thank you very much. I hope you found that helpful, Becca.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. I know it's not the answers you probably wanted, but we are very fortunate to have some of the top people in our ecosystem across all our Q&As. But one thing we do lack, and I'm trying my absolute best, even yesterday had a call with somebody at UKRI, is to find grant specialists that can join us here.
Yeah.
And when I say grant specialists, I don't mean the agencies that come here because they want to get business, but people that are from the likes of Innovate UK or Horizon and so on. And that is harder done than said. So let's see, fingers crossed. But
I don't know if Pauline wants to add anything, because she's joined the meeting.
Who, Pauline?
Yeah, she's here as well. She often has something to say.
Let me see if I can. Where is Pauline? Bear with me. Yep, found Pauline. Let me allow the mic. You are now audible if you want to ask anything, Pauline. If not, don't worry, we can carry on.
Yes, thank you for giving me the microphone. You've sparked something, actually. Anton, in mentioning the NHS innovation avenue, because things are being mentioned to us all the time in terms of getting the right audience and looking in different areas. And sports was mentioned to us because sports psychology is a big field. And, you know, in terms of athletes and their preparation, etc., would the panel know of any sports grants around? And this is a random one thrown in.
No, that's a very good one. And again, to add on the innovation, another thing that might be worth doing is most trusts have got their own labs, especially the university college hospitals. And most trusts have a university hospital that they're associated with anyway. And I would say the majority of them have got their own labs or accelerator or incubator, whatever I want to call it. And they also dish out some decent funding too. So that is definitely something to look into. In terms of sports funds, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. A few times I've met heads of innovation at Chelsea and Arsenal at some events for startups, and they sort of had, it was more of a supply chain exercise rather than accelerator exercises, if that makes sense, Pauline. I don't know,
Yeah.
Any of the fellas have got any ideas of sports grants out there? Unmute yourself if you know. If not, that's okay. We'll maybe move on to the next one if that's all right. Yes, there is. And sorry, Pauline, I'm sure
No,
there
not at
is,
all.
but maybe worth looking at the departments for sports. They might have some calls or something, God knows. But again, going back to the NHS, West Streeting, he's also got this website now in terms of how to, for people and startups that want to work with the NHS, might be worth putting your details there and kind of have a nosy up. Just
What
see
was
what
that?
was
I'm sorry, West Streeting. Sorry.
the health secretary. He's got this.
Okay. All right. Okay.
What's this website? There's a website about helping the NHS. I can't remember the name, but if you do some search on Google, you'll find it.
Okay.
For people that have ideas.
That's great. And it's good to talk. I mean, university hospitals and their own labs. I mean, that alone is a little gem, Anton. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. And they do a lot of work and they can help you a lot, because thing is, if one of them accepts you, you're sorted, because they'll open the doors into the NHS. And, you know, then I don't need to say what happens if somebody opens the door to the NHS, then you're laughing your way to the bank.
Yeah, many possibilities. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome and best of luck. Now, a quick reset of the room before we go on to our next question. There's a couple of people that have raised their hand. If you do want to ask any questions, please type your question in the chat first, then I can give you the mic. So please do that. We will go to Anthony's question in 1 second. I'm going to unmute you, Anthony. And as I do unmute you, I'll also just quickly remind everybody, if you are a startup and you have questions for us, but you're tuning in via our live streams, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions live there. And I can see my phone kind of beeping with messages and stuff on LinkedIn and even Instagram. But again, unfortunately, I can't monitor those questions there. You have to join us live here on Microsoft Teams. You can do that by either clicking the links that I've posted on those live streams, or simply go to startup-to-scaleup.club. Look for today's session, Startup Fundraising Q&A 133. Click join, quick registration. You'll then get an email with a link to join us here for the live audio. Please do remember, we're only going to be here for the next 26 minutes, and that time will fly quickly. So unfortunately, you have to rush and hurry, basically, in case you want to join us. Now, again, you can see it's Startup Fundraising Q&A. So any questions to do with how to go about fundraising in order to take your business to the next stage are very welcome. And there are no wrong questions, so no need to be shy. Anthony Bray, are you able to talk, buddy?
Hello there. Hi there. I don't know if you could hear me okay.
Yes, we can. Please introduce yourself and fire away with your question.
Yeah, sure. Hi there. So my name, I'll try and be as quick as I can. I know there's limited time and others want to speak. So my name's Anthony Bray. I am from a tech background. I've worked in video games for 30 years. And recently, having a go, I've actually run a video games company in the past, developing video games. But what I've done here was been running a startup for, it's literally just a few weeks. It was organically grown from some demands that I had from some clients where they were asking me, I've been working a lot recently in data visualization. And so basically it's the fusion of two worlds, which is data visualization mixed with the kind of tech that you would find in video games, which is kind of cinematic 3D data visualizations. The idea is really to take what may be quite mundane, boring, boring to some, not boring to me, but mundane information that's presented via charts, graphs, line graphs, and present them in a way that's quite unconventional, and which is what we've done. I did post a link to the website because you can actually see it. I don't know if you have two screens, but you can actually see it running there. And so the business model is basically bespoke 3D cinematic data visualizations. It's quite difficult to vocalize it. It's much easier to see it. So the website I put up, I put it up the night yesterday. Actually, I put the website's up yesterday morning. Everything's been moving so fast. The software I wrote myself with my colleague in the last few weeks, and we have clients lined up. The next phase really is I'm speed talking here just because I know time's limited, but the next phase really is there's a lot of interest. A lot of interest has been generated by this. I've previously actually created these types of visualizations, and they've gone viral. They get huge engagement, but I never took it to a level of actually creating a business out of it. So that's where I am now. It's all bootstrapped. Now looking at the next phase of bringing partners on board, really, any type of help, whether it's funding, whether it's people who can open doors, whether it's grants. I did mention on my question, is SEIS the best way forward? Because I don't think at this moment, well, we're not looking at this moment at millions. So,
why do you need the money, Anthony?
Well, it's really because what I would want to do is probably, it's going to be, I think when raising a business, when creating a business, I think that it's not just about raising the funds. I think it's the knowledge the investors can bring with it, the doors that can be opened, the clients that can come with the investment. So I know what my strengths and
you need somebody that will open doors for you and help you sell. Is
potentially,
that right?
Yeah, funding, doors opening, business knowledge. I know my strengths and weaknesses. I hope I keep learning more about them.
You said there's interest. By the way, is your product ready now? If I wanted to use you today,
100%.
Can you help me?
Yes, 100%.
And how long has that been possible?
Since yesterday when I finished it.
And now you said there's interest. What are we talking about? That interest? What kind of interest?
Companies who actually want to pay for a bespoke version of these visualizations to present at conferences, to present at meetings. I've even had one at university.
Have they sent you any purchase orders or anything?
No, it's been 3 weeks, literally. Well, because the conversation started in a week. So, like literally within the last week. So,
get cracking with those. But I'll pass you on to the panelists now. Personally, I would do two things. Yes, SEIS, it's a good deed. I would right now look at two forms: accelerators and angels who've been in similar businesses. But let's start with Paul. I think it's a good idea to start with Paul. Then we can go on to Tommy, then Alex, then Fred, please.
Okay.
Yeah, great. So we're a late stage investor, kind of pre-Series A, that kind of level. But obviously, early stage we know as well. We used to be a CIS investor as well. So there are, as already mentioned, there's kind of angels, family and friends, and angels, and then crowdfunders, the obvious targets if you wanted to raise money. But it does seem that if you've got interest and potential revenue straight away, then you might be able to bootstrap it to a certain extent. And whether funding is really vital at this stage, 3 weeks into the company, is a different question. But of course, you can accelerate quite quickly with a bit of funding. But I would have thought you're still in the stage of setting things up and understanding exactly where your market is and perfecting the, well, 3 weeks in, you're very, very new to it all, but obviously you've got lots of background before that. So I would try and find people, angels specifically, at this stage that have insight into your specific video sector, and then trying to work with them. So they may be able to give you advice without funding, or funding and advice. But family and friends isn't always an option for some entrepreneurs, and that's understandable. But and crowdfunding would probably be the last port of call of the really early stage, personally, because there is quite a lot of process linked to that. But they do tend to be, the crowd tends to be pretty price insensitive, so you might be able to raise more with less dilution at an early stage, which may be important to you. So I think that those are your main options. And if family and friends is not available, then you might not even need to raise very much. So if you don't need to raise very much, then a lot of the crowdfunders probably won't be that interested, and maybe actually stuck with the family and friends or angels. And then you keep coming back to angels, and then it's about your network. And kind of this sort of environment may be a good way to find some people who have knowledge in the sector that you want to work with. But I'm sure others have stronger opinions than I do.
Thank you very much for that, Paul. We'll now go on to Tommy. Dimitrios, please type your question in the chat rather than keep putting your hands up. Otherwise, unfortunately, we're not able to give you the mic. So please do that rather than blocking the hand raise. Tommy?
Yeah, so I'd say the first thing, as you kind of pointed out yourself, you're finding it hard to describe your idea, and that's, the first thing I think about working on. So maybe the easiest thing to do, like I've gone on your website now and it's much clearer, but you need to nail down that elevator pitch. So maybe it's easiest for you to think of a particular use case to try and explain the idea. In terms of funding, I think, at this stage, unless you really need it for something, you're better off just trying to build traction. If you've got an MVP, try and get some customers, even if it's, you have to do the first, do 1 or 2 projects for free just to prove, have proof of concept. But I would say, just as a general point of the website, like I can kind of see what the idea is, but like it's very generic, that like it's for 3D presentations and, things like that, but it's not clear, why this is important or why it's better than just regular 2D. So I'd also suggest for the website to try and just I would narrow your focus down on one particular sector initially, and go and find some data out there from a report, and then put it into your system, and have a much clearer visual representation on the website and use case, and then just go after a more niche market and be really clear on what the USP is, why it's much better to have this 3D visualization than just a regular 2D chart in the presentation, and what it can do. So, I can see what it can do here, but it's kind of generic. It would be better to actually try and just pick a, particular sector or industry and show them why it's really cool to present the data in a 3D visualization, and just build that up, and then try and get a few customers with that before going out and raising, and then you'll just be in a much better place with proof of concept.
Thank you very much, Tommy. The next one, let's go to Alex, please, and then Fred.
Thanks, Anton. Anthony, yeah, I think what you've built interesting. I see a lot of these kind of charts on LinkedIn, etc., tracking things over time. I think 3 weeks is very early. think the first thing you need to do is really nail down exactly your pitch deck, work on all the materials, work on who your target customer is, your target market. Before going out to fundraise, you really need to kind of get that idea down and figure out exactly what, I don't know if you're used to making pitch decks, but you need to kind of absolutely nail what your problem is and what your solution is, so you're able to give the elevator pitch succinctly. In terms of who you're targeting, I would say angels are the right stage for you. SEIS, EIS funds tend to want a bit more traction or revenue, especially from kind of where you are before they'll invest at this time. So normally there's a friends and family round before those funds come in. If you're looking at family offices or high net worth angels, there's a lot from the gaming industry that are out there and quite visible. I know, for example, the owners of King that done Candy Crush have a family office that look at exactly this type of thing and gaming applications. So really focus on guys from that background would be my advice.
Thank you for the
Thank you very much,
advice, Alexander.
And last but not least, Fred, please.
Thanks, Anton. I mean, I've not got much to add. A couple of thoughts just sprung to mind, and I should caveat with this is not a stage in which we specialize at investing. We're a later stage investor. But two potential things to think about are, firstly, often when you go and find a chairperson or a non-exec director to join you on the journey, the board is maybe a formal is maybe too of a formal statement, but with a view of joining you on the board in the future, they often invest personally and so can become angels. And so that's a potential route to go down, looking for a chairperson who can also invest. And the second point is, what are the things that you can do to demonstrate that this is something the market really wants, and that your venture is going to have genuine momentum? So is that, if it's not revenue today, is it a written promise or email from a potential client saying, should this business get funded and have the financial stability, we would absolutely engage with something like this? How much of that kind of evidence can you build? Are you able to convince people to join a business where there's maybe not much of a salary available at the start, who have some industry experience, kind of validating the thesis that you're going after? So I'd be focusing on things like that would give the early stage investors just maybe that edge of confidence to say, actually, I know this is early, but I think this is an investable opportunity. So not that helpful advice, but I tried my best.
Thank you very much, Fred. Yes, Alex.
I was just going to add, I think one of the big questions you're probably going to have to answer to any VC out there is, with AI coming in, how replicable, defensible is this from someone that generates images over AI? So make sure that that's answered before you approach any VCs.
Absolutely spot on. I was just about to say that, Anthony. With a premium chat GPT, I could probably do maybe not as good as what you're doing, but the point is that ability is out there. So that's something you need to bear in mind. And if you want actually to think about it, what I would do if I were you, I would sit down and write a model canvas, a product roadmap, and even a pitch deck, and work out on those how to describe exactly what your business does in 10 words, and then the other pitch deck in less than a minute. Sorry, the other pitch, i.e. elevator pitch, which is 20 to 40 seconds, but absolutely not up to a minute or not longer than that. So work out on those. And in terms of how you work this out, there's something I call NWIDS, Anthony. N stands for need. So you've got to think, what is the need you're fulfilling or the problem you're solving? W stands for want. It could be something that people don't actually need, but they may want it. But at the same time, either way, whether they need it or not, you've got to think and be really niche about who would want to pay for this, right? And how are you going to go to them? I stands for innovation. What is the innovation that you're bringing to the fore? D stands for disruption. Who are you disrupting out there? Literally, you've got to think which company are you going to steal clients from? And I guess just as important as the first one, the problem solving, S, which stands for scalability. Is this scalable? What is it you have to scale it, and what is it you need? Then go out there and maybe find a co-founder, because this is not the kind of business to go out there and raise investment. If there is as much interest as you're saying, just go out there and get people to accept an invoice or a purchase order, and guess what? You can go to the bank and get invoice financing on this. That's what I would focus first, and then after that, maybe chase. Are you based in London, Anthony?
Well, I'm companies registered in London. I'm from London, but they're based in the West Midlands.
Okay.
But between the two, I'm always all the time. So
fair enough. The reason I ask is City of London, for example, has got access to Bowhurst, and there's probably other similar ones out there.
Sorry, I missed that. It's got access to what? Sorry,
Bowhurst. Bowhurst, it's like the top startup leads company, right? You can go and check for people that angels and companies that have invested or they've made exits and so on. And then you can find potential leads to reach out to through this.
Okay.
Paul, did you want to say anything, buddy?
Yeah.
You mentioned West Midlands. All of a sudden, my brain's whirring about the British Business Bank funds and the proof of concept fund from the Midlands Engine Investment Fund. So that may also be an option for you to speak to, and they can go pretty early. We managed the Midlands Engine Investment Fund previously from the British Business Bank, and so we're in later stage now, but they would do proof of concept, which may actually fit quite nicely with you.
Yeah, they've been very, very helpful actually. And just yesterday, I met Innovate UK, and they loved it, absolutely loved it. And they want to follow up next week on this because they saw it on the big screen, and I had more time to explain what it was. So, but it's all based in the West Midlands. So, thank you for that. Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, thank you very much for that. We now have only 9 minutes to go. And by the way, join us again, Anthony. I'd love to hear on your progress. So we've got a question that was sent in to us. It's quite a mouthful. So please, panelists, let's try and keep the answers to a minute. So it's a gamified learning platform for financial literacy in Glasgow. They're at pre-seed. She says, our current situation is that the platform itself uses gamification to teach financial literacy, targeting schools across the UK. We're preparing for an SEIS qualifying round, but have concerns about meeting educational sector requirements whilst maintaining SEIS eligibility. God. Okay, so our goal is to ensure SEIS compliance while structuring our platform, in a way that appeals to impact investors focused on educational tech. So again, our question is, as we prepare for our SEIS round, we need guidance on ensuring compliance for our gamified financial literacy platform. Since our focus is educational, we want to avoid violating SEIS requirements related to service provision or direct educational activities. How should we structure the investment to meet SEIS requirements whilst clearly demonstrating our educational mission to impact investors? Are there specific frameworks for EdTech in the UK that allow us to retain SEIS benefits without compromising our focus on school partnerships, particularly for educational products aimed at the public sector? Jesus, Miriam bleeding Jesus. Okay, let's start with Fred, then Alex, then Tommy, then Paul, please.
This is not really this is not a structuring.
Don needs to say sorry, buddy.
Structuring for SEIS is not an area of expertise, so I'll pass on this one and allow someone to who knows a bit more about it talk about it.
Cool, thank you very much, Alex.
This is something I can actually help you with. We invested in a company through our family office called Black Bullion. which is doing very similar to you in financial literacy, but for universities. Vivi's the founder. I've put her link in the chat. Reach out to her. She'll tell you how she's done it.
Brilliant point. Thank you very much for that. Any quick ideas in terms of something generic, if you don't want to go into detail because we haven't got time, Alex? First of all, did she go through a lawyer to do this?
Yes, I believe she did, but we invested via EIS, SEIS on this, so it is possible.
Okay, so it's doable. Thank you very much. Who's next? I think it's Tommy and then Paul, isn't it? Tommy?
Yeah, not a whole lot of advice, but this sector, I've actually got a bit of experience of working with some businesses in the ed tech space trying to sell into schools, and without the founder being here, I'm not sure what the reason is for that approach, but it is notoriously difficult. Whatever about selling into universities, selling into schools in the UK is very difficult. I mean, they will have tight budgets and basically have no spare cash to invest. So that's a tough business model. So I would also think, is there an alternative business model where you actually get, you look more consumers rather than schools, i.e. the parents are paying for it. So I'd also have a think about the business model. Is like schools is tough, and is that really the best way to go about it?
Interesting point. Thank you very much for that, Tommy. Last but not least, Paul, please.
Yeah, I would agree with all of the above, to be honest. But SEIS should be supporting these types of companies, and financial literacy, obviously, I think a great initiative and really much needed. Actually, one of my good friends, he set up a company called Firefly, which sold into independent schools and kind of a kind of homework platform. So I can drop his details in the chat as well. But yeah, good luck. I think the structuring piece is something which does sit outside fundraising. Really, it's more about advice, from legal advice about structure, and the EIS, SEIS compliance is. I wouldn't perceive it be too difficult on this, because you're doing the risk to capital condition, yes, and you're doing all the right things. So I can't, at a high level, see there would be a big challenge, but I'm sure the devil's in the detail as always.
Thank you very much for that. One thing I would say is you might want to join our startup legal Q&A, which is the second Friday of April, or I'm not 100% sure, but maybe there might be some wisdom tomorrow in our startup finances Q&A, because some of those CFOs have worked for various startups in the past, so they might have an idea. Please feel free to do so. We now have 3 minutes to go, so rather than do the usual where we get parting words, I'd love to hear, especially since we have Fred here and Alex. So Fred being from the corporate world and Alex being from the family office worlds, what are some good tips in your experience, for startups to, let's start with Alex, to reach out to a family office, and then we'll go on to Fred in terms of VCT, and then maybe Paul and Tommy might want to give us some ideas in terms of how do you start, since you're both on growth, how do you start building building bridges to later stage VCs when you're way far from that point where you need growth capital? Is there a way, is there any wisdom to actually start building relationships early, and how would you do that? So Alex, how do I get family office money? Fred, how do I get VCT money? And then Paul and Tommy, how do I build relationships early? Go ahead, Alex.
So family offices are very difficult, notoriously, to get hold of. You kind of need to be in the sphere to share deals and to get them interested. The best way is really through a trusted source of the family. They're very opaque, and each family wants something different. Some family offices just do later stage, some do early stage, some don't do private deals at all, and some allocate just through funds. So very hard to help on that one. The best thing to do is, if you get one family office on your cap table by luck or coincidence, then ask them to introduce you to other families, because they tend to be able to do that. And family offices tend to only work through network.
Thank you very much. We've got, oh, Paul said he needs to leave now. Have you got time for growth quickly, Paul? And then we'll go on to Fred. Is that all right, Fred?
Of course.
So, Paul,
Sure.
how do I build relationships, although I'm way too early for somebody at your stage? Is there any wisdom in trying to build those relationships early, and how to do it?
Yeah, definitely. We follow a lot of companies from very early stage all the way through, and it's great to, through our investment team's network, to see companies and see their growth profile and understand the founders better, because a lot of this is about people. And if you're communicating well and consistently, and an investor can see how you're delivering growth, then they can have confidence in coming in at a later stage.
And how do I do that?
Just be authentic, honest, and discuss the challenges. You can probably get some good advice from the investors, as well as just getting to know them. So don't be engaging and have some perseverance, but obviously do not overstep your welcome, really. So yeah, that kind of soft long-term engagement.
So start asking for advice early. Thank you very much, Paul.
Okay,
we'll now
right,
go
thank
on to, thank you. We'll go on to Fred. Fred, how do I get VCT money?
Thanks, Anton. Again, like, have a broken record, but have a really good business. VCTs are always raising money, so most of them, us included, raise money every single year. So we've always got cash to deploy, and we're always open. Let's try and be more helpful. Things I really like when companies do is when they get in touch very non-committal and say, and it's very personalized, and they say, like, this is what we're building, we think it's relevant to you for these reasons. We saw you do this before, say this, or put this post out, or invest in this company, and this is why we are close to your thesis and the way you spoke about it. So keep us on your radar. Here's our projections. I'd love to send you a quarterly update of how we progress towards hitting your milestones. Now, the key thing to do is to send numbers you think you'll beat, maybe undercook them. And even if it makes the numbers, it's going to take longer to get to the investment criteria level. If it's a revenue number, even if it's going to take you a bit longer than you'd like, do that, because if you're overshooting your numbers, you instantly build confidence when the investor then is taking a serious look at it, that, okay, these numbers are credible, and actually they beat the last numbers that we saw, and so we can have some confidence in them at least hitting these numbers. So I think that's a little tip that I try and speak to my portfolio companies about if they're trying to engage with the next stage, under promise and then go and over deliver. And for us, it's really basic, different from family offices. So the way to get in touch is just all of our email addresses are online. You will be amazed at the amount of people that message me on LinkedIn and say, what's your email address? And we still give it out, of course, but just do some basic research, look on the websites of VCTs, they're all quite open. Failing that, try LinkedIn, but don't just plaster the market with generic emails. The key is doing something personalized and really thinking approaching would be my key bits of advice.
Thank you very much, Fred. And last but not least, Tommy, how do I get to build relationships with growth investors when I'm at very early stages?
So at the very early stage, really you're out there trying to get investment now. So you're looking at that seed, Series A funding or pre-seed. the reality is a lot of growth investors, and Fred will know this very well. They network with the earlier stage investors, so they will speak. Fred, I'm sure, will speak to lots of growth investors who will be asking what's in their portfolio, what's performing well, or proactively, the investors will also be sending stuff to growth investors saying, "Hey, we've invested in this company, it's smashing it, and we think it's doing really well." So those types of things, it is a small network within the VC world, and the growth and the earlier stage investors network a lot, and that's where the deal flow comes from for a lot of growth funds, from those earlier stage investors. So it's kind of important at the earlier stages when you're taking on investment, that some of the questions you're asking potential investors is, trying to understand what their network is like, the deals they've invested in, have they gone on to raise growth rounds after, what's their success rate like, who they talk to, and that's both angels and, early stage VCs. The angels out there, the good angels, will invest at pre-seed, and they'll have a really good network of early stage, institutional investors, VCs, who come to them knowing these angels tend to back good companies or good deal flow. And likewise, the early stage investors will kick it up as well, aligned to the growth investors. So really, it's, you don't want to obsess too much, I would say, at the early stage about engaging growth investors. It's really about making sure you get the right earlier stage investors that have the ability to go out and help you get, later stage funding, to connect you with the right funds at the right time. So I wouldn't, at the early stage, you're so far away from raising growth funding, I wouldn't have that as a major concern for you. I'd just focus on getting the money you need now to grow, and just execute and execute and execute.
Hey, thank you very much for that, Tommy. Well, a huge thanks to everyone that tuned in today, whether you did that via LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. Also, obviously, even greater thanks to the people that joined us here on Microsoft Teams. It's the best platform to engage and interact with us. I'm grateful to our panelists who did an amazing and brilliant job today. Thank you very much. Just two quick reminders. Number one, our Startup of the Month campaign competition ends tomorrow. So you've got until tomorrow evening to enter the competition. And if you win, you'll get featured in all our events. I believe it's either 12 or 13 events throughout April. To give you an idea, we've had over 270,000 people join us in our sessions so far. So this would be great exposure to our community of founders, investors, operators, potential clients, collaborators, and so on. It's quite straightforward. You just go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club, look in the menu there and find Startup of the Month. You just need to be a UK registered business that is under 3 years. And just record a 1 minute video or audio for us. Now, in terms of the second announcement, just a reminder that we run 6 regular sessions: Mondays talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, Thursdays fundraising, second Friday of the month it's UK startup law, and third Friday of the month it's UK startup finances, which is tomorrow. You can RSVP to any of them via our website, startuptoscaleup.club. And actually, when you join there, you may want to join our WhatsApp community, where you'll also get alerts sent to you for all future events that we run. Now, as far as my parting words are concerned, just remember, the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime, and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter. Otherwise, huge thanks again. Have a great afternoon, and God bless you all. Don't forget to join us tomorrow for Startup Finance Q&A. Bye-bye for now.